Hey there, and welcome back to a very special episode of MetaNetTV. I'm Jon, and today I've got with me Wuckert Jr. Hey there, Kurt.
How you doing, Jon?
Pretty good, thanks. Now, actually, I'm a little intimidated interviewing you because I think you've done many more hours of Bitcoin videos than I have. So you might have to school me a little bit on it.
I don't know if intimidating is fair, but I do a pretty good interview if I do say so myself.
You do an excellent interview. I've watched several of them. So you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, also much longer than me, and you're the founder of Crypto Traders Pro. Traders or Trader?
Co-founder. Me and a buddy founded it together about 2 years ago to the day now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we put together, it started as a Facebook group. It grew really quickly during the 2017 bull run. We're one of the largest, like we have about 50-ish thousand members on Facebook. So we're not the biggest. There's a couple that have like 200,000-300,000 people, but they're trashy groups. So I'm very proud of 50,000, well moderated. We kick out the scammers and the trolls, and the other kind of buzz off on their own. But yes, Matthew is my partner. We founded it together.
So what exactly is a crypto traders group? I mean, for people who are unfamiliar with them or who don't really hang out in Telegram or Facebook or anything, like what do people talk about there?
So, it's interesting. We put it together. Matthew is actually a traditional equities trader. So he has Wall Street style, just common stocks and bonds and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Trading, and he got into crypto in 2016, and trading sucks, actually. Like it's lonely and you go crazy. So he put this group together kind of hunting for other people to share charts with.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized nobody in crypto understands trading, like fundamentally, like what trading is actually about. So I was one of the only people in the group that was participating, and we decided, he reached out to me immediately and was like, hey, you got to be a moderator. I don't know a ton about Bitcoin, and you clearly do. And so let's work together. And then we basically decided to turn it into more of an educational group, because there were so many just ignorant fools, but I don't mean it in a derogatory. I just mean people that have no idea what they're doing. They were just blowing money, and some of them were getting very rich, but a lot of people were getting very, very burned.
Yeah.
And took it on ourselves as a duty to tell people to stay away from ICOs when that was the hot thing, and learn to trade effectively, learn like the systems that a professional would use to make money as a trader, and treat it like a career, treat it like a professional. And that's what it's turned into. So now we're really the lead educational group. So we're not, we don't accept any outside money. Most of the groups are really just kind of pushing whoever pays them, push a coin and that kind of thing. They turn default into pump and dump groups.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really even do signals or anything like that either. We teach fundamentals of technical analysis and how to trade.
Right. It must be pretty tough running a group that it's focused on rational information and sensible advice. In a world where people are buying into ICOs and making 1,000 times, 2,000 times, everything like that, and I mean, how do they sort of ignore that siren call? Like you must have a bunch of people saying like, screw this is too sensible, I'm off to get rich, and then never hear from them again.
We do. It's funny because like our video course is like 20 hours long, and then we have a Discord group that has our like paying clientele. And we will grade their charts and stuff like that. So they will draw their spaghetti bowl lines, and we will try to push them into a healthier zone. But then you get the guys who will just show up and say, hey, I bought random Ethereum token that isn't traded anywhere, and I made exactly that. I made 2,000% in 2 weeks. I'm a genius. Why didn't you guys see this coming? And, it's like, hey, man, like you're playing the lottery, and we're very happy that you won. That's it. That's the whole conversation. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I have enough trouble convincing people not to play the lottery. So
yeah, me too.
And the ICO market's kind of like a lottery where there are more winners, or at least it seems like there are more winners on the surface. But
it is. It depends on the season. You know what? If you bought most ICOs in 2017 and you sold them at the right time, you actually did do really well. But people aren't wired that way. You know, when somebody makes 800%, all they think about is making 1600%. Like, they don't lock it in and exit and say, great, I'm moving on. And so you get people who are up exactly that, and now they're down 98%. And that's it. So that's the hard part. And that's a part of what we teach too, like sensible gains, how to take profit while leaving some for more upside and that kind of thing. Just systematic approach. Like a professional trader makes money in up markets and down markets, and they do it primarily by focusing on keeping what they have. And that's the crucial thing that an amateur does not understand. So we spend a lot of time teaching our newcomers. Every time we get new people, that's really the biggest conversation that we're drilling into people's heads.
Yeah, I find I'm never there enough watching the markets long enough to actually learn those fundamentals, because, you know, I think to really do it properly, you got to focus on it all the time. So how do you do that? Like, how do you do that and do Twitter and videos and everything else at the same time?
You know, I make a rule. I only ever actually click the buy or sell button probably less than 5 times a month. I do my market analysis on a daily basis.
Right.
But if I don't see a crystal clear entry, it's basically like if I was playing baseball, like I only hit the pitch that I want to see. And otherwise I don't swing the bat. If I can't hit a curveball, I'm not swinging at it. And that's really my ethos generally, because there's so much volatility and there's so much upside that there's not a reason to get aggressive. Like a very, very, very conservative strategy will make you gangster money in any kind of crypto trading.
Gangster money. I mean, that's a fantastic promise. I should just point out that this is not financial advice of any kind. In fact,
indeed.
In fact, do not listen to me if you're looking to get rich. Maybe listen to Kurt.
You know what? I'll teach you how. I will never, ever, ever tell you what to buy or when to buy it. I will teach you how to make your own decisions.
Cool. Now you're you're already pretty high profile on Bitcoin SV social media, and before that, other crypto media as well. Like, how do you maintain that energy and enthusiasm to tweet, every hour or every day?
You know what? I've always had a passion for stuff. I was always into politics. I was the debate team captain in high school and college. Right. I just care about stuff. I care about knowledge, and I care about the truth. And for me, when I look at Bitcoin SV, like it has everything that I care about. Primarily, I care about Bitcoin when it comes to anything in the crypto sphere. I think BSV will absorb everything. It'll destroy everything. And I see it really as a responsibility. I see myself sort of like a doomsday preacher, like, hey, you're all going to go to hell if you don't find Jesus. It's that kind of actual urgency for me, I see it as an imperative. So I kind of can't stop, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, no, I can totally understand that. I just, every now and then I'll have one of those days where I just think, I do not want to hear the word Bitcoin today. I mean, within about 5 hours, I'm back on Twitter again, but there's always those moments.
That's the same. I tell myself I'm going to take a Bitcoin vacation, and it's exactly that. I will be doing whatever else I said I would be doing, and I'm reaching into my pocket because I had an inspirational thought hit me. So
exactly, yeah. So you say you've been on the scene since 2012. For this series, I'm asking everybody, how did you get into Bitcoin in the first place? Did you have a trading background?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
I was an activist, and it's funny, if you watch some of my earlier videos, I talk about being a Bitcoiner since 2013, and then I actually checked, and the very first bit, it was like $100 worth of Bitcoin that I received was in 2012, and I come from the printing industry, but I've done a lot of activism for a long time, and I went to a sort of end the Fed rally in Chicago in 2012. And somebody offered to buy posters from my printing company, and they offered to pay me in Bitcoin. And I had no idea what it was. And he gave a mildly convincing description. I said, sure. It didn't really. It cost me almost nothing. He wanted 5 posts. Job would have, like I said, about $100, but the material on it was probably $20. So it was just like, yeah, whatever. Give me some Bitcoin, and then it just kind of sat there for a long time, and I ignored it for a good while, and then it wasn't until 2013 that I started to really climb down the rabbit hole, and here I am.
It was a good time to do it.
Yeah.
In fact, you might be the first person I've met so far whose first experience with Bitcoin was someone paying them in it.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that's really informed my worldview about Bitcoin since then. So, for me, I was like, I never saw it as primarily an investment vehicle. And I think 99.9% of everybody sees it primarily as an investment asset.
Yeah.
Where I have always thought cash use case is the most important thing. And then all the other stuff was like the benefit that we all get from it. But that sort of medium of exchange was the crucial thing. So much so that in 2013, I share Facebook snapshots from 2013 of me checking in at my office and saying, hey, I paid my employees in Bitcoin today. Like, if you want to learn about it, or if you want a job and get paid in Bitcoin, apply here, that kind of thing. So I was using it as a way to pay employees. I would pay vendors if they'd accept it. I would accept it for work. It was always money to me. So.
Yeah, you mean you were actually using it the way it was supposed to be used? That's insane.
Imagine that.
Yeah, when I mean, even after I bought my first Bitcoin, and it's which is long gone, by the way, but even then, I was just spending it and using it, and people said, you got to hold this stuff, man. You got to hang on to it. And I thought, well, what's the point? Yeah. What's the point of that? And I never believed that it was ever going to be worth anything much. When it hit 200 or 300, I thought, well, I mean, that's as far as it's ever going to go.
Sure. That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, even after it went to 1,000, like, I didn't believe it was going to be worth a lot more than that.
I figured it would. I didn't figure it would be so quick.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe by the time I'm 50 or something, it'll be worth a few $1,000 a coin or something, because that's like the nature of sound money, that it should gradually accrue value as it's used. But yeah, it's become outrageous for sure.
I was thinking of it more as something that I would, leave for my kids when I was dead.
Sure.
And then they would thank me for it. Like, maybe they'd think, gee, maybe Dad wasn't so crazy after all.
Right. Well, he still was, but we'll take his money.
Yeah. And come to think of it, that's the way most people think of their grandparents or parents, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely.
Speaking of which, you recently just became a father for the first time.
I did. Friday the 26th was the birth of my son.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you, as a good Bitcoiner, you blockchainified that as much as possible, didn't you?
Yes, I announced it by block height. So I gave the block height. The block was mined by CoinGeek as my son was being born. Various pictures. I twetched it. What else did I do? There's definitely some Bitstagram uploads, and then I've shared those. So it actually gave me an opportunity to share Bitstagram pictures to friends and family. Here, click these links. This is where the kid is. And oh God, what is this now, Kurt? So we have that conversation with all kinds of senior citizens and people that are vaguely related to me. And so that was fun.
Well, I hope he follows in your footsteps. If he, he might turn out to be a Federal Reserve chairman or something like that. And then he'll get, and people are like, why is there all this blockchain stuff about you when you were a baby? And I'll say, wow, that was my dad.
Right. What an embarrassment.
Well, anyway, kudos to you for still being so energetic. As I mentioned before, I think I can imagine what you're going through right now. If that was just 2 weeks or 1 week ago, then you must be feeling pretty sleepless right now.
Tomorrow, yeah.
I'd be sitting there wearing sunglasses and just grunting replies, I think.
Anything for Bitcoin and MetaNetTV.
So how do you, apart from what you've already done, how do you plan to introduce Bitcoin into your son's life?
It's a good question. I put out a couple of wallet addresses and stuff for anybody in the various communities that I roll in to donate and that kind of thing. So he actually has a little bit of BSV to his name already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly when is appropriate to give him access to it, but
when he's about 30, I would say, maybe 40.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, let him make a couple mistakes with something else first, and then we'll hand it along. But I don't know. I hope by the time he sort of have his own account on a computer or his own smartphone that it's passe. It would be really nice for kids to ask for their allowance in Bitcoin and that kind of thing by that point. So who knows when the appropriate age will even be as my kid grows up. Maybe like the average age will be like 6 or 7 years old for a smartphone. So maybe he'll have a hand cash wallet set up and that will just be his life. But, we'll see.
I mean, it's an interesting question, and I'm asking out of genuine curiosity because, I have a son who's about 7. He was born just before I got into Bitcoin, so I didn't get to register him on the blockchain or anything. But I did give him a wallet, and he still has it. He knows it's there. But to him, it's just numbers. And like Bitcoin, he wouldn't care if it was Bitcoin or, Robux or something. In fact, I think he'd prefer Robux because he plays those online games and he keeps coming in and he's saying like, Dad, can you buy me some more Robux? And I'm like, I'll give you Bitcoin, dude. And he says like,
right.
No, I need Robux because I can use Robux to buy, a new character outfit or something. This new sword that can destroy everyone in the room. Yeah. I think we got to get more of those kind of games happening for kids. I think.
I agree. I think David from Crypto Fights. He's not super local to here, but he has come to the Chicago Meetup. So I've met David and had a good sit down to hear about some of the development going into that. And that is again one of those things that hopefully in 5 or so years, just the way you do it, you play all your games for Bitcoin. Everything is connected to MetaNet in some way, and see how it goes. That's the goal, really.
Well, a lot of people who got into Bitcoin early told me they got there from World of Warcraft or Second Life, and they saw the in-game currencies there, and they thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could just use them in other games? And to them, that's what Bitcoin was.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you game any yourself, or do you stay away from that?
It's been a long time. I used to play some of the first person shooter stuff. Back in the day, I played Doom and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely into Call of Duty games, Modern Warfare and that kind of stuff, but I really haven't sat down and had like an epic session of gaming in probably 5 years at this point.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I grew up playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders, so when I see what they have now, I'm sort of a bit scared and envious at the same time. It's like, oh man, if we'd had this when I was a kid.
I actually prefer it. My wife and I we'll do date nights and go to the retro arcade. We'll sit and play pinball and we'll even like air hockey and that kind of stuff. I like the more simple interactive games, but we play quite a bit of antique arcade. Space Invaders, Pac-Man, that kind of thing is great actually. So I prefer it in some ways, but obviously I do like the modern person shooter games and stuff as well. But
yeah, it's a completely different experience, really.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's all immersive. I mean, you get emotional. At some point, you get shot in the game, and you're, oh no, I failed. It becomes emotional, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. I used to actually get pretty scared playing games like Doom, and everyone's gonna laugh at me for saying that, but just the thought of putting in like scary background noises and foreboding music, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, anyway, the music in the game was intense too. It gets you wound up.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, whoever was the first person to think of that was probably very clever. But I just want to get us back to the crypto thing, in case because I know nothing about gaming, and I'm just going to make myself sound more stupid the more I talk about games. But yeah, I mean, it is something I wish more people would work on. Is just creating more sort of fun and interesting ways to use crypto rather than just wallets with plain screens and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So you're also the organizer of the Chicago Bitcoin SV Meetup.
Yep.
How long's that been running?
Well, since November, but it was a Bitcoin Cash
So
meetup
straight away.
starting in early 2018. So it was a Bitcoin.com sponsored meetup, which caused a certain amount of drama after BCH and BSV split, and I let the world know I would not be, following the ABC chain because they were very kind. I had a really good relationship with the guy that organized the BCH meetups for Bitcoin.com. He's an employee of Rogers. He's a good guy. Is a good guy actually. He's been a good friend, and it was pretty rough actually. So we sort of did a soft transition. It was about 3 months where we sort of just did the Chicago Big Block meetup and talked about both chains, and then we finally got a replacement who was passionate about Bitcoin Cash to sort of take over the Cash meetup. And I think we've done 3 BSV meetups now that were just solely BSV meetups after the split. So it's been, year and a half, almost 2 years now of hosting meetups in Chicago.
Right. So, I mean, if you were thinking about that back in November, then you knew pretty much straight away that you wanted to go with Bitcoin SV and not Bitcoin ABC. It took me maybe a few more months than that. You know, I didn't dislike one or the other. I was just playing the wait and see thing. So what was it about SV that made you realize straight away that was the way to go?
You know, I was it's interesting because fundamentally, like, I've always been very libertarian, and Roger Ver was actually one of the guys who I watched his videos back in the day. Roger Ver and Adam Kokesh, who's like an anarchist activist, but he was a Bitcoiner too. And both of those guys really inspired me. So when it kind of turned into talking about government and law, and it didn't really appeal to me emotionally or anything, it was hard for me when the SV node came out, because from a technological standpoint, I agreed with Bitcoin SV, but from a sort of a philosophical or political standpoint, I was a little more on the ABC side.
Yeah.
You know, I was pretty neutral, and my opinion was let the best man win. Like, we're gonna have a hash war. Once I will be orphaned, and we'll keep going, and whoever wins. And then I really saw the checkpointing drama as a deeply underhanded. Like, it struck me as people that are all advocates of anarchism, self-government, like extreme self-government, to the point where there is no state and all of that. And I think that's an ideal that I always really liked. But then I watched them take power into their own hands and undercut the law of Bitcoin. That was the rules of the game. And they did it with impunity. They know they did it. They know it was underhanded. And they just bold-faced looked at everyone and said, no, this is how you win. This is what you have to do when you're under attack. And, and they weren't under attack. They created this straw man, and then they created this war against somebody who, Craig didn't cheat. If you go back and really look at it, he just did what he said he was going to do. He's going to put a bunch of money into a bunch of hash power, and he's going to mine the chain. And when I had that conversation with my friends, and genuinely friends in the ABC camp, they're, you don't understand, and you're the, I immediately had people threatening me and telling me I'm a paid shill or whatever else. And it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I looked at it and said, you know what? Nakamoto consensus is a very specific thing, and it's the thing that I believe in, and it's the thing that the SV people believe in. And the ABC people have completely betrayed Bitcoin, and they betrayed me in many ways too, like personally. So it was just over for me at that point. I really was just done, and went full blown real in that first week, like during the sort of what's this going to be hash war drama week. I was very much solidified in the SV camp.
It's pretty interesting, because it seems to me that anyone I know that's got that libertarian streak has gone with BCH. I mean, even if they will admit quietly, when the cameras are off and everything, that they see the technological merits of Bitcoin SV. It's more an ideological thing for them. They're like, I'm here with BCH because that's where the free thinkers and the libertarians are.
Sure.
And a lot of people in SV, they can, I don't know how genuine they are when they say it, a lot of them anyway, but they take a very sort of law and order, regulatory friendly approach.
Sure.
Do you have trouble like clicking agree on or clicking like on some of those?
I do, and therefore I don't click like on them. You
Yeah.
know, I don't think we have to agree about everything, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the beauty of being libertarian. You know, I have Muslim friends and homosexual friends and people that live lifestyles that don't appeal to me, but I like them as people, and it's okay for us to be, in many cases, dear friends, even though we disagree about something fundamental. And I look at it and say the same thing. Like a libertarian needs to earn the right to self-govern, in my opinion. And I think so many libertarians kind of gain that view because they're drug addicts or they're criminals at some level. And then the libertarian worldview appeals to them because it's like, hey, man, I shouldn't actually be punished for my malfeasance.
Exactly.
And that is the worst kind of libertarian.
Well, I'll confess to being that kind of libertarian myself, where I thought, you know what, when I think about it, what I want is, you know, freedom for me and rules for you.
Yes.
Because what
precisely.
I'm doing is fine. Like, I'm not hurting anybody, I think.
Right. Yeah. And you know, and that's a really complicated thing. And I think that's something that, if you look at like the writings of Ayn Rand, for example, like she was very much libertarian, but she wasn't an anarchist, but she genuinely believed in proof of work. Like you needed to earn the society that the libertarians picture. That utopia is not just a status quo state of being thing. It is something that they would have to work very, very hard to maintain. And I don't see a lot of willingness from them to actually do that. And we've seen it a number of times now with like the correlations of people into Silk Road and some of the really deeply disturbing. You know, I was a big free Ross Ulbricht advocate for a long time too. And now that I've looked more deeply into it, I still think he was somewhat of a patsy, but
for sure,
he was involved in a lot of things that were very dark. And I appreciate his political message, but when I look at it fundamentally, like if we lived in an anarchist society where it's up to the people who are affected to deal with these sort of societal ills, like, I'm sorry, Ross, if you were human trafficking and there was no law, you could expect someone who was affected by your decisions to come seek out justice in a way that's very, very brutal. And
yeah,
you know, that's been a big realization for me. Sort of, I don't think we're ready to be as free as I wish we were. And therefore, I think we need structures that bring us that direction. And ultimately, I think that structure will come from Bitcoin when it is appropriately applied. So if we can earn it, if we can actually provide proof of work to make the network be what it is, then maybe we will get that anarchist society, and one that we can actually be proud of, one where the individual wakes up in the morning and works his ass off and self-governs and is innately charitable and is held accountable by the blockchain because everything they do is on chain and that kind of thing. And, you know, then maybe something like that could work, but it definitely can't work if some guy can just change the rules or change the code or fork people out of the game. And that's just not how it works.
Yeah. Do you... just wondering whether I should go back and talk about Ayn Rand and Ross Ulbricht a little bit more, but do you think that Bitcoin SV, as it exists and the way it's intended to work, do you think that can eliminate corruption and eliminate crime? Or is it going to make it a little more difficult? I have this cynicism that, you know, whatever system you create, people will game it, you know, after a certain period of time.
Sure. You know, it'll disincentivize it, but I mean, look at the history of law. Like when we outlawed heroin, did it go away? Like, well, no, it proliferated. Its usage grew. It's still growing in many ways, in many places. And so, you know, it's made it less likely that someone who is interested in playing by the rules will jump in and just try heroin willy-nilly. But if you're motivated to, you could probably go get yourself some heroin in 20 minutes. Like, I guarantee that both of us know a guy who knows a guy who, if we had the money, could get us some. And that's just human stuff. Like, we're good at that. Some people just want to rebel. We have a rebellious nature built into us. We want to stand out, and the easiest way to stand out is by being a prick or being a crook in many ways. And Bitcoin will disincentivize it because it will make things provable. It will cause, it's the same thing. Like, would you commit crime on video with the lights on? Well, maybe.
Lots of people do. And then they post it to Facebook.
Right. Well, yeah. So, I don't know. We can't change people. We definitely can't change people. We can change some. We can create better incentives. We can maybe manage better behavior, but people are people. And then you've also got completely crazy people to deal with too.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I got into Bitcoin SV was because I just become extremely jaded after, I'd been reporting on all of this since 2013, so I had to watch it all pretty closely. And all I saw was just like scam after failure after, screw up after scam. And it seemed that everyone I talked to, 1 year was not in the same business, the following year. They'd either pivoted, or they got hacked, or they moved on. And sure, lots of people are still doing exactly what they were doing, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But a lot of the time when I was interviewing someone, I thought, this whole interview is pointless because, like, you won't even be doing this in a year's time. It will have flopped. And I'm thinking more of the ICO people there, the people who came up with this brilliant system and had a fantastic website, and it was all very well thought out, except that they wanted to create their own blockchain.
Right.
And they thought somehow that like everyone in the world would suddenly use their token for watching movies instead of money, right. Which was it's just insane when you think about it. And like the whole business model just was lying on top of that concept that everyone was going to use their token.
Yeah. So it's it's not healthy, but I understand it though too, because I remember being really jaded about Bitcoin in like 2015 and 16. It was right around when like Mike Hearn left, and he was a guy who I really really respected, and to see how he quit, his farewell letter, basically that Bitcoin's a giant failure. Yeah, I agreed with this criticism. So there was a period of time where I was a passionate altcoiner. And I started mining Monero, and I was interested in the Dash governance model, and these that were genuinely interesting, people that were genuinely trying new ideas, because Bitcoin was a failure in 2016 and 17. Like we had lost, and so I was actually big into Ethereum too. The smart contracts and DApps and all of that was like, hey, this is we can still do this. We can't do it with Bitcoin, but we can do this, and this is great. And then
I'll admit that they do have appealing features.
Absolutely. I mean, they're the things that we like about BSV. Yeah. Like Ethereum is cool conceptually for the same reason that MetaNet is cool conceptually. It's just it doesn't work fundamentally and for a whole bunch of other reasons. But the, hey, we can do this and that's cool is the same thing in both camps. Yeah. So, yeah.
And what would you say to people who would accuse you of still being a passionate altcoiner for being into BSV?
It's an interesting argument. I like to turn Bitcoin into a religious argument because I think it makes the most sense. I always say to people, like, let's assume the Christian God. Okay. So if you talk to a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, and a Mormon, they all agree on the same Genesis story and the flood and the fall of man and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and all of these things. But if you were to talk to a Jew, a Hebrew Jew, they would look at a Christian and say, your religion started in the year 1 AD. You are a newer religion than our religion.
I
But
have
a
thought about
Christian
that,
would say,
actually.
absolutely not. Adam was the first Christian if you look at it in a XYZ way. And it's a really complicated concept unless you really get into the heads of both people talking. And to say one is right or wrong requires there to be an arbiter of absolute truth. And you don't have one until God speaks, right? Like God can come down and say, these are the people who are right. And I don't expect this to happen at any time. I don't expect it randomly. And we have the exact same problem in Bitcoin, is that absolute arbiter of truth doesn't actually exist. To say, look, guys, you are wrong and you guys are right. It just doesn't exist. So
at least I hope it doesn't exist.
I mean, and that's why the sort of, Craig Wright is Satoshi, which, I'm wearing the shirt here.
I noticed that. Yeah.
That's why that's so juicy. And I think that's why that mattered. But it still really only matters to the kind of people that want a first person authoritative opinion anyways, because a certain amount of people, it won't matter if Craig definitively proves that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. There's a whole host of people that just will say, well, that doesn't matter. Next argument. And this is human nature again. Like it's ego, it's money, it really is a political philosophy thing. And I don't know. I'm a Bitcoiner. I am not an altcoiner. I love Bitcoin for what it is and what it does. And the Bitcoin that I have liked since 2012 looks the most like BSV today. And that's my whole position on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And for the record, when I when I suggested that BSV may be an altcoin, that was just pure devil's advocacy there. Not a reflection of true beliefs.
I am at,
because there's bound to be a YouTube comment or two about it. There always is.
No, you're dead.
BSV is Bitcoin.
There you go.
BTC is an altcoin. Well, sort of. I think the word altcoin is kind of outdated anyway, I think.
It is. It's funny. I had this conversation today in our Facebook group because they asked, well, is BSV an altcoin? And I said, like, altcoin is such an inadequate word at this level because alts were, when the word altcoin was invented, there was like 20 coins. And I think pure coin was like number 3 in market cap.
Yeah.
So like things were very different back then.
Yes, they were indeed. Namecoin. I still have a pile of Namecoin stickers around somewhere. They're not even cool, so they don't even have retro appeal.
Yeah, right. That weird purple like land font.
Yeah. People didn't get into the cool logo designs till later.
Yeah, no. You needed that venture capital money to make those cool ICO logos.
True. Damn, yeah, venture capital money. Well, anyway, just getting back to the main point. Since this is MetaNetTV, welcome to the MetaNetTV team, by the way. I think we're very lucky to have you on board because you're probably one of the most experienced people there. But
I appreciate it. I'm really glad to be here.
So the MetaNet itself, what is it about the MetaNet that interests you, and what aspect of it would you like to look at first?
Oh man,
that's a compulsory question. I have to ask everyone.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's like showing up at the candy store and saying, "Well, where do you start?" For me, you can talk about all these philosophical. Here's the way it's going to change the world, and it's just not how people work. People want to use things accidentally, and they want to have fun. Yeah. And the internet has proven this. Like I saw a meme the other day that said, we used to assume that people were dumb because they didn't have access to information. And this has now been proven false.
Yes.
So MetaNet's not going to be any different. If people put together a society around memes that do really well on change for various reasons, then the MetaNet concept will be successful and it will proliferate, and then it will be used for mission critical plumbing for all kinds of other things that matter in a big esoteric sense.
Yeah.
Twetch is actually a great example for like what is MetaNet? Well, Right now, it's a bunch of idiots making memes and cartoons and trying to make 10 cents alike on whatever good idea they have to put on Twitch. And that's okay. Like, that's actually totally acceptable.
Yeah.
When we saw home video was a revolution. And where did home video start? Well, Universal Studios and stuff would say, it was because Terminator, everybody wanted to get Terminator 2 on VHS. And that's actually false. People wanted to watch porn in their own homes. And
I was just trying to remember the first internet video I ever watched, and yeah, it was probably one of those.
Right. And that's human nature again. Like, people are going to just say, okay, how can this benefit me? How can this benefit my ego or my pocketbook or some other vice that I have? And saw the same thing with Bitcoin itself. Craig laments Silk Road, and I agree with his criticism there, but it's a perfect example of, oh, cool, anonymous internet cash. Let's buy drugs and prostitutes, and let's see if somebody will mail me a rocket launcher if I pay for it. And that's people. And I think MetaNet again should disincentivize that behavior. Now that I think people understand that Bitcoin is not a good tool for buying illegal things, but I think MetaNet will proliferate in a way that nobody's going to predict. And I think we will look back on it in 20 years and laugh about how stupid the first major use cases were. Yeah. And that's awesome.
Just like we look at all those early, like Flash videos that people were making and people thought this was cool back in 1996. Yeah. Or whenever.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty then, Kurt. I'm going to let you go because I think you've probably got a baby that will need feeding very soon.
Ew.
And with that thought, I'll see you around on MetaNetTV. And I look forward to reading what you've got coming up.
Oh, thank you, John.
Or watching the videos, whichever you choose to do. Alrighty. Thanks, man.
Cool. Thank you.